Hello, my name is Spencer Burbage, and this is my final research and discovery project for the year. I decided to do my research and discovery project on an exploration of Goya's black paintings. Uh, First of all, I just want to mention what inspired me to kind of look into this and get it all into this whole subject was that while we were learning about the Enlightenment period, it was mentioned that Professor Kosrak couldn't understand the ways that the Enlightenment period could be filled with such beautiful and fantastical art that just made everything look wonderful while everything horrible in the world was happening. And I wondered the same sort of thing: is how did that happen? How are artists able to separate their creations from what was going on? And in looking into that, I discovered a series of paintings called the Black Paintings by Francisco Goya. These paintings were painted directly onto the walls of his private home outside of Madrid between 1819 and 1823. And I think that these are a really great representation of what was happening internally within him that he felt he was not able to publicly express. And yeah, getting into some of the events of his life, he was born in Fuentodos, Spain in 1746, and he studied art in Zaragoza, Rome, and eventually he found himself as a painter on King Charles II's court in Spain. But during his tenure, Napoleon came in and invaded Spain and took over the court, installed a different leader, but somehow Francisco Goya was able to retain his position within the court. But it's without a doubt he saw some horrible things in terms of just violence, killings, horrible things that occurred while this transfer of power took place. And not only did he witness these horrible things, later on in his life, he contracted a strange disease that we have not been able to define or say what it was, but it left him completely deaf. And the creation of the black paintings took place kind of towards the end of his life. And I think they just really capture how he may have been feeling at the time in ways that he may not have expressed publicly. Just to start off with some of these paintings, I want to start off with Atropos, which is his rendition of the story of the Greek fates, which there are three fates, and as you can see, there are four figures here. We'll get into why there are four in a moment, but the three fate sisters are there. They're floating above what looks to be Earth, kind of just gazing over everything, and I think that that's kind of just in the way that meant to represent the way that the fates, the uncontrollable nature of the future is kind of just always hanging above the earth. And then that fourth figure, I believe, represents a man, and that's meant to represent human people and their inability, their way of wrestling with the fates, and the way that no matter what, they are always going to be intertwined. That being fate, well, man and his fate. The second one that I really want to get into is the duel with cudgels. Within this painting, we see two figures fighting. That's just the thing you see right off the bat, but if you look very closely, you see that they're buried up to their knees in sand. But regardless of the fact that they're trapped in the same position and probably and possibly won't be able to get out, they're still fighting to the death. And in fighting to the death, the winner will only really get a lonely, long, painstakingly brutal death. You know, it's just tough. It's tough to see, and it's like it makes me wonder if that's he's trying to make some sort of connection to humanity in the same way that we're all kind of trapped by mortality, but we still fight, we still do these horrible things to each other, and I don't know, we don't really win much out of it in the grand scheme of things. The next two I'd like to look at are Men Reading and Two Old Men. Within Men Reading, I see three central figures that seem to be very focused on a text or some sort of research that they're just locked in. They're really discussing it, they're getting in, and then two figures sit behind them. One looks to be looking up to the sky, and I don't know, maybe asking for some sort of forgiveness or absolution. I don't know. I mean, I kind of get the sense that it's a sort of representation of maybe a Christ-like figure, just in the way the face is shaped, with the way it looks. And then there's the one figure to his left, which is kind of terrifying. It's just this dead-eyed thing looking straight at the viewer, which I don't know. It's just tough to see. It makes me wonder what he was trying to convey to the audience through this painting. it's very interesting. There's so much meaning to be applied here, and it just fits within this very dark period, this dark series of paintings that it just fits right in there with them. The second one is Two Old, no, the, yes, Two Old Men. This is a depiction of a very old man with a very long white beard. You see he is holding a cane, possibly propping himself up against it, and behind him there's some sort of horrible demon, monstrous thing whispering or shouting into his ear. And what I wonder with this one is just like, what motivated Goya to paint this? I mean, what is it possible that after he went deaf, he began to hear things outside of reality? What was he expressing here? But regardless, these are just two really interesting and compelling works, and I feel like there's a lot of meaning to be interpreted within them. The next one is going to be a man mocked by two women. Within this painting, we see two women to the left and one man to the right. It is believed that this man is meant to be sort of deformed, and these two women are meant to be in some way laughing at him. I don't know. With this one, I just see a possible way of him representing himself through this art, and possibly making a statement towards his own viewpoint towards himself, being that he is deformed, he's different, he feels that way, and he feels that people are laughing at him without him knowing. Again, you come in with these very beautiful dark colors. Most of it's obscured in shadow to kind of create this foreboding feeling, and it's just such an interesting way of looking at this piece, and it just really conveys the overall value that I place in these, which is that because he did not put a lot of definitions to these, so much of it can be interpreted by the viewer. The next one is going to be the Pilgrimage to San Isidro. This is just a huge work that depicts a huge, long procession of people coming up to they're coming up to what is assumed to be his home, and they're leading just this very dark, desperate parade towards him. And I just wonder what this is meant to say. Is he trying to make a point of the way in which things follow us in life and how they may meet us towards the end of it? It's tough to say, but again, you just see the same sort of really interesting color palette and desperate and foreboding feelings. This is such an interesting piece again. But moving on to the next two pieces I'd like to look into. These ones strike me as being the most abstract out of all of the other paintings in terms of both meaning and composition. I mean, you have the dog, which is on the right here. This is just a picture that is almost entirely negative, empty space, aside from some like brown shading, some different, maybe intentional colorways, but you see the head of a dog sticking out, looking up into this space, which is such an interesting, small thing just to paint on such a large canvas, or such a large area of the wall in which he was painting these on. And I wonder if he's just saying, like, making some sort of point as to say that this dog can't even understand what it's seeing, the empty space, and neither can we. And maybe we're in the same boat there. And Asmodia is a very interesting piece as well. This piece depicts a man and a woman floating above the earth, while in the right corner, a French soldier, or what appears to be representative of a French soldier, takes aim at a group of workers working in a field. This one strikes me as just a sort of the way in which Goya possibly felt helpless in his inability to help other people when they were confronted with violence at the hands of the French who had invaded. Perhaps he is putting himself as floating above it, not being able to do anything other than witness and see this tragedy. And but yeah, moving on to the Seductress and Saturn devouring his son. The Seductress is a very interesting piece to me. This is a very brightly colored piece that doesn't dip into the same abstraction that the dog and Asmodia do. It is believed that this piece is representative of a young woman that Goya had previously had a relationship with, and as you can see, this woman is standing leaning on what is believed to be a funeral pile. And perhaps it is some sort of way of hoping that his past loves, the people who cared about him, could move on after his death, and while still mourning, it would still be a bright and sunny sort of day. And Saturn devouring his son is kind of seen as a companion piece to the Seductress by a lot of historians, but it is a very brutal depiction of the old Greek story of Saturn devouring his son, which is, those are the Roman names, of course, but it is brutal, it is horrific, it's visceral, and I just wonder if it is a sort of representation of the ways in which humanity destroys itself, the ways in which the appetite we have for destruction is often satiated through the destructive consumption of our own creations. Again, though, it's just such an interesting piece, such a piece that you could just spend so much time looking at and trying to understand. And I think everyone could come away with something completely different. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Like, truly, it's just such an interesting way of viewing art. And then the final pieces that I would like to look into are The Witch's Sabbath and Two Old Ones Eating. Within The Witch's Sabbath, he made this painting twice. In 1798, as you can see on the top right, within that picture, it is a much more traditional, regular sort of painting with more colors. It's more polished. There's more detail. It's a beautiful piece, and it still contains a lot of this sort of foreboding and kind of scary nature. But when we look to the bottom image, which is the Witch's Sabbath that appeared within his own personal home, you see this just the idea of a prophetic demon goat is put in your face so much more with this large group of people gathering around him and sort of just listening to what appears to be a sermon. It's interesting. It is in the same sort of style, the roughed out style, in which no person looks normal, no person looks anything other than desperate. And yeah, it's so interesting to see. And perhaps it's some sort of commentary on the ways in which religion can sometimes prey upon desperate people and lead them astray. But it's just interesting. It's another thing that you just see, and it's so fun to wonder, to just let your mind go wild. And then Two Old Ones Eating is the last one I want to talk about, which to me, this one calls to mind a lot of different things. I mean, to me, I see a sin eater, a death, which was a profession in the olden days in which people would go and sit next to corpses and eat with them, and it was believed that through that action they were eating the corpse's sin, or whoever the deceased person was, eating their wrongdoings and absorbing them into themselves. But also, it's just a sort of thing where I can see a possible meaning of this is kind of what happens if you sit with your past for too long. If you sit with your own demons for so long, you just grow old with them with you in ways you don't expect or want them to, and you're none the wiser with this guy who's just sitting with a corpse and who seems to be smiling and unaware of it. And yeah, just to end it off, I think nowadays we really talk about emotional expression in art in a completely different way than it has ever been discussed before. In the past, a lot of art and a lot of the creation of art was often motivated by commission and regulated through strict social laws or rules, and it's just so interesting. I wonder, with this, going through this series, the question that comes to mind is, how many works like this were kept private and not brought to the public? How many other artists express themselves more fully in private, but their works that they created just didn't see the light of day? It's just such a good question to ponder and wonder what is it possible that we didn't see the true expression of some of the most famous artists in history? Um, just to end off, here's my works cited. It's kind of it's a lot. It was a lot of different sources. And then, just as I was asked to, I put in a very happy slide at the end, and I want to just say thank you, Professor Kosterak, for this course. I had a really wonderful time. I feel like I learned a lot, and I really appreciated it. So, thanks so much for watching, and bye bye.